suspects are being. One case involves the FBI is now offering $100,000 to see if the police are releasing.
Welcome to Missing Mysteries. I'm your host, Keely, and this is a true crime and paranormal podcast. Today, I am talking about the disappearance of a young woman from Virginia, whose mother is doing everything she can to help find her child. I'm going to be talking about Keeshae Jacobs. Keeshae's mother, Toni, does so much to help her daughter's name and story get out into the media. Keeshae's story was most recently shared on a 4-part docuseries named Black and Missing. This series focuses on how missing Black people are treated by not only the media but law enforcement. Keep this docu-series in mind as you finish this episode, especially if you're interested in learning more about the relationship of law enforcement and missing people of color. Keeshae Jacobs was born on January 1st, 1995, to her mother, Toni Jacobs, in Richmond, Virginia. She was Toni's second child with an older brother, 3.5 years older, named Davon Jacobs. Toni was a single mom to Davon and Keeshae, and she worked very hard to give them a good life. For birthdays, the kids got to go to Kings Dominion Amusement Park in Doswell, Virginia. They would visit family and take trips to the beach. The three of them were a very close family. They loved each other and made sure to make time to talk to each other. Her mother, Toni, said Keeshae was everything to her. She was her baby, and she loved her brother to death. She acted more like a big sister than a little sister to him. Keeshae's aunt describes her as being very protective and loving, saying she was almost like a mama bear in a baby's body. Keeshae loved working with children. She had a job at a daycare that everyone said just came naturally to her. For a 21-year-old, Toni was very impressed by Keeshae's hard work and sense of responsibility, especially when it came to money. She was more of a homebody, but she still had a group of friends she met while doing cheerleading earlier in life while at school. She would go out with her friends and do normal activities that a 21-year-old would do, but ultimately she loved spending time with her family. She was family-oriented and knew she could rely on her mom for emotional support. She talked to her mom about everything and anything. They would go shopping together, watch scary movies together, and text each other throughout the day. On September 26, 2016, Keeshae's day seemed pretty normal. She texted her mom all day while Toni was at work. After work, Toni had a night class, but she made a point to go back home around 5:30 to get her books for class and talk to Keeshae and her brother. Keeshae was having a rough day that day because she was fighting with a guy that she had been going out with, so she hung out around home till Toni got back from school around 8:30 p.m. and gave Toni the heads up that she was going to be spending the night at a friend's house that night. Toni made sure to give Keeshae a huge hug, and she told her mom she would be back the next day. 11:30 p.m. that night, Toni texted Keeshae while she was out to make sure she was in a safe place for the night and to be safe and that she didn't want anything to happen to her. Keeshae made sure to text her mom back that she was safe, that she loved her, and she would see her that next day. This was the last text exchange between Toni and Keeshae. That next day seemed pretty normal. Toni woke up, she went to work, but at her lunch break she noticed Keeshae hadn't tried to call or text her all day. She sent her text with no reply, and then she called Davon to see if he had seen Keeshae. He hadn't seen her, but he told Toni she was supposed to be coming home to cook him breakfast like she said she would the day before. But when Toni got home at 5:30 that day, she hadn't had any contact with Keeshae. She wasn't home, and that was not normal for Keeshae, even when she was mad at her mom. Toni began to call Keeshae's phone, and it went straight to voicemail. She checked Keeshae's Facebook, but there was no activity, and even called her friends, but no one knew where Keeshae was. Toni was worried for Keeshae, and Davon tried to comfort his mom, telling her that everything was okay. He thought she was just hanging out with a friend, but Toni had a feeling that she wasn't. She went to bed that night worried for her daughter's safety. She ended up waking up at 1 a.m. She got dressed, hopped in the car, and she went door to door to Keeshae's friends to see if anyone knew where she was or if she was at any of their homes. Out of all the friends she talked to, nobody knew anything about where Keeshae was. After searching, Toni called her sister, Keeshae's aunt, to tell her that Keeshae was missing. She had thought that adult needed to be missing for 24 hours before being reported missing, but Keeshae's aunt told Toni no, and to report Keeshae missing immediately. At 2 a.m., Tony went to the Richmond police station to report 21-year-old Keeshae missing. At this time of the night, the doors of the police station are locked for safety, and she had to call the station to be allowed in to speak to an officer. A police officer came to the door and talked to Tony. She was upset and she told him her daughter is missing. He asked her how she knew that Keeshae didn't want to be away from Tony if she is a 21-year-old woman. Tony showed him her phone to show that she was normally in regular contact with her, and this was not normal. Tony explained the officer had been very sarcastic to her when he asked if she knew what Keeshae looked like or if she had an ID or photo of her. She was able to give the officer an extra ID that she carried with her since Keeshae always lost her ID cards. Tony filed the police report, and she was handed a card and told that someone will be in contact with her. Tony went back home to call family and let them know what was happening. She also called her job to inform them that she would not be coming in. 2 days after she had been reported missing, Keeshae's friends came to Tony's house to let her know that they had not been telling her the truth when she came to ask where Keeshae was. That night, they had dropped her off at a man's house, and an hour before coming to see her, they went to his house to ask him where Keeshae was, and when he told them she was at the house, they went straight to Tony's house. Tony, like any mother in this situation, was upset that they didn't tell her the truth to begin with and asked why they would go to the house instead of just coming straight to Tony, and then asked for the address of the house. She immediately drove to the house about 10 minutes away from hers and knocked on the door. The man answered the door and he told Tony he met Keeshae through a mutual friend. They had hung out a few times. He admitted to seeing her on that night of the 26th around 5 p.m. She told this man that was not possible because she was at home at 5 p.m. This is around the time that Keeshae brought Tony out her books for school, and the man changed the time he had seen Keeshae a few different times, changing it from 30 minutes to an hour later. For Tony, she had heard enough of his story and called the police. She informed them that she was at the last known location of her missing daughter, and the last person to see her was telling an inconsistent story. The police showed up to the house to talk to the man. They even got his permission to look around the house, but determined that Keeshae was not in the house. This whole situation was frustrating for Tony because not only did she feel this man was lying about where Keeshae was, but the detective on Keeshae's case never showed up, and instead, different detectives showed up, and the house wasn't even searched as it should have been. She left feeling like Keeshae could still be in that house, and now anything could be happening to her. The Sunday after Keeshae went missing, on October 2nd, Tony's friends held a rally to raise awareness of Keeshae's disappearance. The goal was to pass out flyers and get Keeshae's face out there in hopes that someone saw something or knows something. During the rally, the owners of the home that the man was at approached Tony to let her know that the man staying there that answered the door was only staying there temporarily, and they now give her full permission to thoroughly search the home. During her search, she had found something that the police hadn't, and that was the basement. Police only went inside the house, but to get to the basement, you needed to go to the backyard and down a random set of stairs. When she saw this, she thought, oh my god, what if he was keeping Keeshae in here, and we would have never known, and now he is gone. Tony didn't see any signs of Keeshae in the basement or in the house, but she did see bloody tissues in a trash can. She was going through the house with the owners, and she informed them not to throw the trash away or touch anything to prevent contamination of a possible crime scene. Tony had been contacting the police this whole week that Keeshae went missing, but Monday, after they got permission to search the house from the owners, police made their first official contact with Tony and made their first move into investigating Keeshae's disappearance. The police went back into that house with dogs for a new search. Tony wasn't there when they searched, but the owners of the home told her that the police had searched the home more than once, and Tony had said that they took DNA from the home. The police didn't stop their search with the dogs in the house. They also searched the property and a park not too far from the home, but no signs of Keeshae were found. They did make some interesting developments. During the first step in this search and the investigation, the police found that the man who was in the house that is still not named to the public fled the house the second that Tony and the police had been there the first time. This man had been on parole for a previous offense against women, which is why he may have fled when police got involved. The police have never named him as a suspect or person of interest, but to this day, Toni does believe that this man is key to finding her daughter. She believes that he knows exactly what happened to Keeshae and where she is. Even with police involvement, Toni was not done investigating for herself. She went back to the friends that were with Keeshae that night that told her about the house to ask them more questions. One friend she spoke to was named DeMarcus Hunt, and he told Toni that he had driven Keeshae to the house that night to meet a mutual female friend. DeMarcus said last he saw of Keeshae, she was walking up to the house. She made a call, and someone let her into the house, opening the door for her. He then drove away. DeMarcus said that he saw a text on Keeshae's phone from the female friend that said she was going to be there. Her female friend has said that she had never made plans to meet Keeshae at the house or texted her about it. Keeshae's phone records, social media accounts, and bank accounts were checked. Her phone had been shut off that night after her last text around 11 to her mom and has not been turned on since. Her bank accounts and social media accounts have no activity. To this day, her cell phone, ID, and overnight bag she packed for that night have never been found. Toni felt that her daughter's case wasn't taken serious until Davon's death 3.5 months after Keeshae's disappearance. On January 8th, 2017, her brother Keeshae Jacobs was murdered at just 25 years old. In a period of just 3.5 months, Toni had lost both of her children. On January 9th, just a day later, his murderer, James Henshaw, was arrested for Davon's murder. During James Henshaw's whole trial, investigators tried to find a connection to Davon's murder and Keeshae's disappearance. Just 2 months before Keeshae's disappearance, Davon had been released from prison after serving time for drug charges, and they wondered if there could have been money owed or someone who wanted revenge. But ultimately, police ended up announcing that there was no connection between Davon and Keeshae's cases. A year after his death, Davon's killer was found guilty of second-degree murder. From what I could find, he was sentenced to 15 years until a retrial about a year later where his sentence was changed to a shorter term, I believe only 5 years. Toni Jacobs' whole life was turned around in just that 3.5 months. In her grief, she knew she had to keep fighting for Keeshae. She had told a local Georgia newspaper, "I look at it like this. I know wherever he is right now, he is watching over her because that is the first thing he would want to do." Toni has started the Missing Keeshae Jacobs Foundation and opened up her own social media to allow people to give her tips. She even has turned to foundations such as the Black Missing Foundation for help. Tips have come in from people who believe they have seen Keeshae, and Toni follows up on them, but she also will receive messages from people demanding money and even faking to be Keeshae while trying to scam Toni, or doing it with the intention to upset or hurt Toni further. When it comes to the sincere tips, none of them have helped bring Keeshae home so far. Toni does believe that Keeshae is still alive and looks for her while she is out driving. Along the way, the police have announced that they suspect foul play in Keeshae's disappearance. There is no person of interest in Keeshae's case, but in 2018, an anonymous source led to a possible person of interest in her case. The possible person of interest hasn't been named, but he is a man who is currently serving time for crimes against women. He has claimed that he knows about Keeshae and where she is. Investigators have spoken to this man in prison a couple of times, but have cut off communication after he began to play games and not be honest with the police. Toni has asked if she could speak to this man, but the police have told her it is okay to attempt to contact, but there is no guarantee he is going to want to speak to her, as he most likely is doing this to reduce his sentence and may not even know information about Keeshae. Many believe this man could possibly be the same man who was at the house where Keeshae was last seen, and due to the nature of her case and the fact that it is still an open case, police are most likely keeping this under their belts, which is why we do not know further on these men, or if it is the same man. Keeshae has been missing for 5 years now. Toni works with multiple foundations and shares Keeshae's story on many documentaries, radio shows, and podcasts. Keeshae is missed by so many. She is 27 years old now. When she went missing, she was wearing black basketball shorts, pink and black Nike basketball shoes, a pink scarf. She has multiple tattoos, including a rose on her right shoulder, paw prints on her right thigh, and a flower on her right wrist, a heart on her left shoulder with the name Tony beneath it, and a leaf on her right foot. Her ears are pierced, and her fingernails were painted blue. She is between 5 foot to 5'3". She weighs approximately 100 to 110 pounds. She has brown hair and brown eyes. If you know anything, please contact the Richmond Police at 804-646-5125 or head over to the Help Find Keeshae Jacobs Facebook page where you can send a tip to Tony. Please help bring home Keeshae. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate the support. I want to wish you a happy rest of your week. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you next week. Bye!